She came to the base only to visit her husband, carrying a wool scarf still smelling of winter snow. No uniform, no insignia, just a wife in the middle of a white season. Then the explosion tore through the quiet air. Alarms screamed, bullets ripped past prefab roofs, soldiers dropped into thick snow. When the defense line collapsed, no one knew where to shoot, until a cold shot rang out from the mountainside. Then a second, and the entire base understood someone was saving them. The transport dropped Catherine Hayes at Gate 3 just after dawn. Her breath clouded white in the frozen air. She wore civilian clothes, dark jeans, thermal jacket, boots caked with road salt from the drive up. The scarf around her neck was hand-knit, uneven stitches, a gift from her sister 3 Christmases ago. Forward operating base Granite sat in a valley between 2 ridge lines, temporary structures half buried in snow. 27 soldiers stationed here for border monitoring. Nothing glamorous. Long shifts, watching screens, maintaining equipment, counting days until rotation. She signed the visitor log with cold fingers. The corporal at the gate, Martinez, his nameplate said, barely looked at her paperwork. He was young, maybe 22, eyes red from overnight watch. Captain Hayes is in the command trailer, Martinez said. 3rd building past the fuel depot. Catherine nodded. She knew where it was. She had studied the base layout from satellite images before making the trip. Old habit. Her husband didn't know she still did that. The snow crunched under her boots. Morning light turned everything pale blue. She passed 2 soldiers carrying ammo crates, their conversation fragmenting in the cold. One laughed about something. The sound felt thin, stretched. She found David in the command trailer, bent over a radio set, adjusting frequency dials. He didn't hear her enter. She watched him work for a moment, the careful precision in his movements, the way his jaw tightened when static crackled through the speakers. "That thing still giving you trouble?" she said. He turned, his face opened with surprise, then warmth. "Cat, I thought you weren't coming until next week." "Got the dates wrong," she lied. She had moved her trip up after monitoring weather patterns and activity reports from the region. Something felt off. She couldn't name it yet. David crossed the small space and pulled her close. He smelled like instant coffee and cold metal. "How long can you stay?" 2 days, maybe 3 if the roads hold. He pulled back, studying her face. "You look tired." 6-hour drive. She unwound the scarf, draped it over a chair. "You look worse." He laughed, but it was true. Dark circles, stubble coming in gray at the edges. David was 41, looked 50 in this light. 3 tours before this posting. Too many years spent in places that wore men down. "Equipment issues," he said. "Half the sensors on the perimeter are acting up. Snow getting into the housings. And the satellite link keeps dropping during shift changes." Catherine moved to the radio console, touched the dial he'd been adjusting. "Frequency drift?" "Yeah. Temperature cycling, probably. I've been compensating manually every few hours." She nodded, her eyes tracking across the equipment. She noticed things. The backup battery level was low. The antenna cable had stress cracks in the insulation. The emergency frequency card was taped to the wall with old tape that had lost its adhesive on one corner. David noticed her noticing. "I know. This whole place is held together with duct tape and prayers. Where's your second radio?" "Supply shed. Been cannibalizing it for parts." She filed that information away. No backup. If the primary failed during an incident, they'd be isolated. David filled a thermos from the coffee maker. Burned smell. Too strong. "Come on, I'll show you where you can drop your bag. Visitor quarters are nothing special, but the heat works." They stepped back into the cold. The wind had shifted. Catherine paused, turned her face toward the north ridge. The temperature had dropped at least 5 degrees in the last 20 minutes. "Weather coming in?" she asked. "Not supposed to." David checked his watch. "High pressure system. Should stay clear until Wednesday." Catherine looked at the sky. Too pale, too still. The kind of still that came before things broke loose. The visitor quarters were exactly what David promised, nothing special. A prefab unit with 4 bunks, thin mattress, small heater that rattled when it ran. Catherine set her bag on the bunk nearest the door and unzipped it. Inside, spare clothes, toiletries, a paperback she wouldn't read, and beneath the false bottom she'd sewn in 5 years ago, a ballistics calculator, range cards, and a loopholed scope still in its protective case. She left everything packed. For now. Outside, the base was waking up, shift change happening. Soldiers moved between buildings, voices carrying in the thin air. Someone started a generator. The smell of diesel exhaust drifted past. Catherine walked the perimeter, hands in her jacket pockets, playing the role of a bored spouse killing time. But her eyes worked. She noted the spacing of defensive positions, the sightlines from the ridges, the places where accumulated snow created blind spots. The sensors, David mentioned. She could see 3 from here, small boxes mounted on posts, one with its housing cracked open, exposed circuitry already icing over. Martinez was still at the gate, now joined by another guard. They had coffee in paper cups, steam rising. Neither was watching the approach road with much attention. She walked past the motor pool, 2 Humvees, one with a dead battery according to the conversation she overheard. The fuel depot David mentioned sat behind chain link, diesel tanks nested together, a small guard shack empty, no one watching it. The North Ridge dominated the view. Pine trees heavy with snow, rock faces jutting through, elevation maybe 400 feet above the base. Perfect overwatch position. From up there, you could see everything, every building, every fighting position, every vehicle. You could count heads, map movements, choose targets. The thought arrived cold and professional. She recognized the feeling, the old training asserting itself, the way her mind still mapped terrain in terms of angles and exposures. She'd been out for 8 years, told herself she'd left it behind, but the circuitry remained, waiting. She found David again near the mess hall. He was talking to a sergeant African-American man, stocky build, name tag reading Williams. "Third time this week," Williams was saying. "Either the motion sensors are glitching, or we've got deer walking the perimeter every night." "Probably deer," David said. "But reset the detection parameters anyway. Lower the threshold." Williams nodded, noticed Catherine. "Ma'am, this is my wife," David said. "Kat, this is Sergeant Williams. He runs security." They shook hands. Williams had a firm grip, calluses on his palm. "Infantry," she guessed. "Combat vet." His eyes held a wariness that never went away. "How long you been here?" Catherine asked. 4 months. Quiet posting. Mostly. He glanced at David. "Your husband keeps us busy with drills, though." "Someone has to," David said. After Williams left, Catherine turned to her husband. "Motion sensors are malfunctioning? False alarms. Happens with snow accumulation, branches falling, wildlife. All 3 sensors? It's a harsh environment." Catherine said nothing. She looked again toward the North Ridge. The wind was picking up now, blowing snow in horizontal sheets across the open ground. The temperature kept dropping. Her fingers were going numb despite the gloves. David saw her shiver. "Come on, let's get inside. I'll give you the full tour after lunch." But Catherine's attention had caught on something else. Near the command trailer, a soldier was struggling with a satellite dish, trying to realign it. The dish swiveled, searching for signal, finding nothing. "When did that start?" she asked. David followed her gaze. "About an hour ago. Atmospheric conditions, probably. It'll come back." "What's your backup comms?" "Radio net. We're tied into the regional frequency. And if that fails, run her to the relay station, 12 miles by road." 12 miles. In this terrain, in this weather, that might as well be 100. It happened at 1,340 hours. Catherine was in the mess hall with David, halfway through a sandwich that tasted like cardboard and salt. 6 other soldiers at scattered tables. The low murmur of conversation. Someone had a small radio playing country music, volume barely audible. The first explosion came from the north perimeter. The sound hit like a physical force, a deep crump that shook the building, rattled windows, sent plastic trays skittering off tables. The lights flickered. The music died. For 1 second, nobody moved. Just that universal moment of confusion, brains catching up to reality. Then the alarms screamed. David was moving before the second explosion. "Contact north." He grabbed his rifle from where it leaned against the wall, already running. "Everyone to positions." The mess hall emptied in controlled chaos. Soldiers grabbed weapons, helmets, gear, training taking over. Catherine followed David outside, and the world had transformed. Smoke rose from the north fence line. A section of chain link was torn apart, metal twisted. 2 soldiers were down, not moving. Another was crawling toward cover, leaving a blood trail in the snow. Incoming fire, now the crack snap of bullets overhead, the deeper thump of something larger. Mortars, maybe, or RPGs. The sound fragmented in the wind, making it hard to pinpoint sources. "They're on the ridge," Williams shouted from behind a concrete barrier. He fired 3 rounds toward the tree line. Multiple positions. At least, his words cut off as bullets chewed into the barrier, concrete chips exploding. He ducked, cursed, popped up, and fired again. David was at the command trailer now, grabbing the radio handset. Base Granite to Regional Command. We are under attack. Repeat, under attack. Requesting immediate support. Static. Nothing but static. He switched frequencies. Tried again. Same result. They're jamming us, he said. Or the equipment's down. He looked at Catherine, and in that moment she saw him calculating, saw him realizing how isolated they were, how vulnerable. Get to the bunker. South side. Go now. But Catherine wasn't moving. She was watching the pattern of incoming fire. 3 main points of origin, high, mid, and low on the ridge. Coordinated. Professional. The attackers had overlapping fields of fire, creating a kill box that covered the entire north side of the base. More explosions. The motor pool erupted in flames. One of the Humvees became a fireball. Black smoke poured into the pale sky. Soldiers were returning fire but hitting nothing. They couldn't see the enemy through the snow and smoke and distance. They were shooting at sound, at muzzle flashes, at ghosts. The wounded soldier who'd been crawling finally made it to cover. 2 others pulled him behind a wall. His leg was shredded below the knee. "We need to fall back," Martinez was yelling. "Regroup at the..." A burst of automatic fire cut across his position. He went flat, helmet scraping concrete. David made a decision. "Williams, get everyone to the secondary line. Fighting positions 3 through 7. Move!" They fell back. A fighting withdrawal, covering each other, dragging the wounded. The attackers pressed forward, their fire intensifying. A mortar round hit the mess hall. The roof collapsed inward. Catherine counted heads as soldiers pulled back. 23 accounted for. 4 down or missing. She moved with them to the secondary line, a series of reinforced positions closer to the center of the base. Better cover, interlocking fields of fire, but still blind to the ridge. David was beside her, breathing hard. Blood on his face from a cut shrapnel, probably. Nothing serious. "Stay down," he said. "They're maneuvering. This isn't random fire. They're trying to..." "Flank us," Catherine finished. "They'll push from the east next. Pin you here. Come around the fuel depot." He stared at her. "How do you..." "Because that's what I'd do." Before he could respond, small drone sounds. 3 of them, quadcopters, appearing through the smoke. They hovered 40 feet up, cameras pointing down. Reconnaissance, or targeting. Williams tried to shoot one down, missed. The drones scattered, repositioned. One dropped something smoke grenade, red smoke billowing across the compound, adding to the chaos. Catherine's mind worked through the problem. The base was losing. The attackers had the high ground, superior intel, the initiative. The defenders couldn't see their targets, couldn't coordinate, couldn't call for help. The fight would be over in 20 minutes, unless something changed. The smoke and snow merged into a wall of white that erased the world. Visibility dropped to 20 feet, then 10. Soldiers fired at shadows, at movement that might be wind pushing through gaps in the smoke. "Cease fire," David shouted. "You're wasting ammo. Controlled shots only." But control was slipping. The drones kept repositioning, dropping more smoke. The incoming fire came from new angles, now the attackers moving, adapting. A squad tried to reinforce the east side and walked into an ambush. 2 down immediately. The others scattered. Catherine pressed against a wall, watching. Her training gave her a framework the others lacked. She could read the chaos, see the intent behind the randomness. The attackers were good, professional military, or close to it. They had coordinated their assault timing with weather conditions, hit during shift change when alertness was lowest, targeted communications first. They'd mapped the base thoroughly, knew where the weak points were. But professionals had patterns. And patterns could be predicted. She watched the rhythm of their fire, the high position on the ridge that was their anchor, heavy weapon, probably belt-fed, firing in bursts of 7 to 9 rounds. Suppressive fire, keeping heads down. The mid and low positions were rifle teams, 4 or 5 shooters each, providing precision targeting. The high position fired again. She counted. 8 rounds. Pause. Barrel change or belt reload. 12 seconds of vulnerability. She filed it away. A soldier stumbled past her, face white with shock, weapon dragging in the snow. Kid couldn't be older than 19. His hands shook so badly he couldn't maintain his grip. Catherine caught his arm. "Hey, look at me." He focused on her face. "What's your name?" "P. Peterson." "Okay, Peterson, you're going to be fine, but I need you to breathe. In through your nose, count to 4, out through your mouth. Do it." He tried, failed, tried again. "That's it. Keep going." She helped him sit against the wall. "Stay here. Keep your head down. You're doing good. She moved on, found Williams directing fire from behind an overturned cargo container. He had a radio pressed to his ear, shaking his head in frustration. Still nothing, he said. Either they took out the relay station or... They took it out, Catherine said. First move, before the main assault. Williams looked at her sharply. You sound pretty sure about that. I am. And who exactly are you, ma'am? David appeared before she could answer. Williams, we need to collapse the perimeter. Pull everyone back to the core positions. We can't hold this spread with. If you pull back, they'll overrun you, Catherine interrupted. They're waiting for that. They want you concentrated. Makes the mortar targeting easier. David turned to her. His expression was complex. Surprise, confusion, and something else. Recognition, maybe. Like he was seeing someone he'd known once but forgotten. Kat, what are you talking about? The attack pattern. They're hurting you. Pushing you toward the center. Once you're grouped tight, they'll hit you with everything. How do you know this? She met his eyes. Because it's textbook. And because I can see their overwatch position. Third ridge, northeast face, elevation approximately 400 feet. Single shooter with a DMR or light machine gun. He's calling the shots for the whole assault. Williams stared. You can see that? Through all this? No. But I can hear him. And I can read the fire pattern. David's face was changing. She watched him put pieces together, her old evasions about her past, the gaps in her stories, the way she'd always deflected questions about the years before they met. Kat, what did you do? Before? She didn't answer. Instead, she pointed toward the supply shed. You said you had a backup rifle. Where? What? Your spare rifle, the one you've been cannibalizing for parts. Where is it? In the armory. But it's not. What caliber? 7.62. But the scope is gone, and I need it. And whatever optics you have, spotter scope, backup sight, anything. David grabbed her arm. You're not making sense. What are you planning? Catherine looked at him. I'm planning to give you a chance. The armory was a converted shipping container. Steel walls, combination lock, dim light from a single bulb, racks of rifles, boxes of ammunition, protective gear stacked on shelves. Everything organized with military precision. David worked the lock, pulled the door open. This is insane. Even if you could shoot, you can't go out there. The kill zone extends. I'm not going into the kill zone. Then where? Catherine pushed past him, scanning the racks. She found the rifle, an M110, stripped down, parts missing. But the barrel was intact. The trigger group functional. The bolt worked. She pulled it down, checked the action, dry-fired once. The click was clean. I need the scope from your room, she said. The one you keep in the desk drawer. Don't tell me you don't have one. David's mouth opened, closed. He had a personal rifle scope, a nice one, bought with his own money years ago. He'd never mentioned it, never brought it to the base. How did you... David, the scope, now. He left. Came back 3 minutes later with a hard case. Inside was a loopholed Mark IV, fixed 10-power magnification. Not ideal for the range she needed, but it would work. Catherine mounted it quickly, her hands remembering the movements. Muscle memory from another life. Williams appeared in the doorway, breathing hard. Captain, we've got wounded piling up. The medic needs... He stopped, seeing Catherine with the rifle. Ma'am, what are you doing? Buying time, she said. She loaded a magazine, chambered a round. You can't go out there. I'm not. She pointed to the ridge on the south side of the base, lower than the north ridge, but still elevated. Rock face with a narrow shelf about halfway up. I'm going there. Williams looked back at her. That's 400 yards from here, exposed the whole way. And even if you make it, you'll be in the open. I'll have cover from the rock face and elevation. You'll be alone. David stepped between them. Kat, stop. You're not trained for this. You're going to get yourself killed. She looked at him. David, I was trained for exactly this. What are you talking about? I was a Marine Scout sniper. 8 years. 2 deployments. 143 confirmed kills. I got out after Fallujah because I couldn't do it anymore. But I can still shoot. The words landed like stones. David's face went blank with shock. You never told me. 8 years. You never. I didn't want that to be who I was anymore. Williams was staring at her with new eyes. Scout sniper. Jesus. Which unit? 1st Battalion, 8th Marines. You were at Fallujah? 2nd battle? He whistled low. Okay. Maybe this isn't insane. He turned to David. Sir, if she's for real, we need her. The way things are going, we've got maybe 10 minutes before they push through. David was still processing. His wife, 8 years married, and he'd never known. Catherine touched his face. I'm sorry. I wanted to leave it behind. But right now, it's the only thing that can help. He closed his eyes, nodded once. What do you need? Spotting scope if you have one, rangefinder, wind meter, and I need someone to create a diversion when I move to the ridge. I'll do it, Williams said. Give me 5 minutes to position a squad. We'll put fire on the north ridge, draw their attention. Make it loud, Catherine said. I want them looking anywhere but south. Williams left at a run. David opened a locker, pulled out additional equipment. Rangefinder, compact spotting scope, a small weather station. He handed them to Catherine, his movements mechanical. How far? He asked. My position to theirs? Maybe 600 yards. Elevation advantage theirs, but the wind's in my favor now. Can you make that shot? I've made harder. He was quiet for a moment. Then, after this, we need to talk. I know. I mean really talk. Everything. I know. He pulled her close, held her tight. She felt his heart hammering against her chest. Don't die, he said. I won't. Promise me. I promise. She pulled away, shouldered the rifle, gathered the equipment. At the doorway, she paused. David, when you see me shoot, don't question it. Just use the openings I give you. Push when they falter. Understood? Understood. She stepped into the white chaos and disappeared. The run to the south ridge took 3 minutes. Catherine moved low and fast, using smoke for cover, timing her movement between incoming rounds. The rifle was heavy across her back, the equipment belt digging into her hip. She reached the base of the ridge and started climbing. The rock face was steep, slippery with ice. Her fingers found holds, boots scraping for purchase. 50 feet up. 75. Her breath came hard in the cold air. The shelf was narrow, maybe 4 feet deep, 8 feet wide. Enough space to work. She bellied down on the cold stone, swept snow away with her forearm, set up position. The spotting scope came out first. She glassed the north ridge, searching for targets through the smoke and snow. Movement. There. A shape behind a fallen tree. Muzzle flash. Rifle team, 2 shooters. Higher. The machine gun position. Harder to see, better concealed. But she caught the glint of brass, the shadow of a body behind the weapon. She ranged it. 630 yards. Wind coming from the northwest at approximately 15 miles per hour, gusting higher. Temperature, -8 Celsius. Barometric pressure dropping. She ran the calculations in her head. Bullet drop, wind drift, cold air density. The math came back instantly. Muscle memory from thousands of hours on ranges. Adjust up 3 MOA, right 1.5. She checked the magazine. 20 rounds. She'd need to make them count. Below, Williams and his squad opened up. Heavy fire toward the north ridge, sustained, loud. The attackers responded, shifting focus. Exactly as planned. Catherine settled into the scope. The world narrowed to the small circle of magnified reality. She could see the machine gunner now just the top of his head and shoulders behind the weapon. He was wearing a white parka, face wrapped. Professional gear. He fired a burst. 9 rounds. Pause. Barrel change coming. Catherine controlled her breathing. In, out, slow. The crosshair drifted with her heartbeat. The gunner reached for the barrel assembly. She took up the slack in the trigger, felt the wall, pressed through. The rifle bucked. The report cracked across the valley. Through the scope, she saw the impact. The gunner jerked backward, weapon tilting. He slumped over the machine gun, not moving. Catherine worked the bolt. Chambered the next round. The rifle teams below had frozen, confused. Their overwatch was down. They hadn't seen the shot, didn't know where it came from. She found the second target. Rifle team, north ridge, mid-position. The shooter was standing now, trying to see what happened above him. Fatal mistake. Range 610 yards. Same wind. Adjust slightly for the lower angle. She fired. The shooter dropped. Now they knew. Someone was shooting at them. They started to move, scrambling for better cover. Their formation broke. Below, David's voice carried across the base. Push! They're breaking! Push now! The defenders moved forward, reclaiming ground. The pressure shifted. Catherine kept shooting. The third shot took a spotter who was trying to relocate. He'd made it 5 yards before Catherine's bullet found him between the shoulder blades. He went down hard, didn't get up. The attackers were reorganizing, trying to locate her position. Someone fired toward the south ridge, wild shots, nowhere close. They knew general direction but not specifics. Catherine shifted 15 feet east along the shelf. New angle, better sightline on the low position. She found them through the scope. 4 shooters in a cluster, behind a rock outcrop. One was on a radio, probably trying to coordinate with the now absent Overwatch. The others were scanning, weapons up. The radio operator was the threat. She put the crosshair on his center mass. Range 605 yards. Wind picking up 17, 18 mph. Adjust. Fire. The bullet caught him in the chest. He folded forward. The radio fell into the snow. The remaining 3 scattered. Smart. They broke in different directions, making themselves harder to track. Catherine picked the closest. He was moving fast, trying to reach a better position. She led him, calculated his speed, his trajectory. Fire. Miss. The bullet kicked up snow 2 feet ahead of him. She cycled the bolt, adjusted, fired again. This time the bullet found flesh. The runner went down tumbling. Below, the base defenders were in full offensive now. Williams led a squad up the east flank. Martinez and his team pushed north. They moved with purpose, no longer pinned and desperate. The attackers were falling back. Their coordination was gone. Without Overwatch, without leadership, they were just individuals trying to survive. Catherine tracked another target, a heavy weapons specialist trying to set up a mortar tube. She could see the rounds stacked beside him, the targeting sight in his hands. She put a bullet through the sight. Glass and metal exploded. The specialist dove away, abandoning the weapon. The assault was collapsing. Someone in the attacking force realized they'd lost the initiative and made the call to withdraw. Catherine saw them pulling back in groups, moving toward the far side of the North Ridge, where vehicles must be waiting. She let them go. Her job wasn't to kill everyone. It was to break the attack. Below, David was coordinating defensive positions, making sure they didn't walk into a trap during the pursuit. Williams had reached the north fence line, was checking on the wounded from the initial assault. Catherine stayed in position, watching, making sure the retreat was real. 5 minutes passed. The shooting stopped. The smoke began to clear in the wind. The white world settled back into cold stillness. She safed the rifle, started the climb down. By the time Catherine reached the base, the defenders had secured the perimeter. Soldiers moved through the compound, checking casualties, putting out small fires, cataloging damage. The butcher's bill wasn't as bad as it could have been. 3 dead, 7 wounded, 2 seriously. The motor pool was gone. The mess hall was destroyed. Communications equipment was slag, but the base stood. The defenders had held. Catherine walked through the gate, carrying the rifle openly now. Soldiers stared. Word had spread. Someone had been shooting from the south ridge. Someone had broken the attack. She found David at the command trailer, or what was left of it. The roof had taken a mortar round. Everything inside was destroyed. He saw her coming. His face was hard to read, relief, confusion, something else. "All targets down?" he asked. "The important ones." The rest fled. Williams appeared, breathing hard. "Ma'am, I need to know. How many did you drop?" 7 confirmed. Maybe 2 more I couldn't verify. He shook his head slowly. 7. In what, 15 minutes? 12. Jesus. He looked at David. "Sir, we need to debrief her. Full tactical rundown. They'll want details when the investigation." "Later," David said. "Right now, we need to stabilize the wounded and establish a defensive perimeter in case they come back." "They won't," Catherine said. "Not today. They lost their leadership and most of their heavy weapons. They'll need time to regroup." "You sound confident." "I am." Williams studied her. Marine Scout sniper. I looked it up. Less than 300 active duty at any given time. Most selective program in the Corps. "That's right." "And you just walked away from it?" Catherine was quiet for a moment. "Because I got tired of being good at killing." The words hung in the cold air. Williams nodded slowly. "Fair enough." He extended his hand. "Thank you, ma'am. You saved a lot of lives today." She shook it, just returning the favor. "You all kept me safe. I kept you safe. That's how it works." He left to coordinate cleanup. Catherine and David stood alone in the ruined command center. "So," he said, "Scout sniper. 8 years. Fallujah." He was quiet, processing. "Why didn't you tell me?" "Because I wanted to be someone else. I wanted to be just Cat, just a regular person, not a killer." "You're not a killer. I have 143 confirmed kills. What does that make me?" "A Marine. Someone who did her job." "That's what I told myself. For a long time. She set the rifle down against a wall. But after Fallujah, I couldn't anymore. I couldn't separate the job from who I was. So I left. And you never thought to mention this? In 8 years of marriage, I thought about it. Every day. But the longer I waited, the harder it got. She met his eyes. I'm sorry. David ran a hand through his hair. I don't know what to say. Part of me is angry. Part of me is, I don't even know. Grateful, confused, all of those are fair. Were you ever going to tell me? Maybe, someday, when I figured out how. He laughed, but there was no humor in it. Well, I guess today forced the issue. Yeah, they stood in the cold, the smoke clearing around them, the sound of soldiers working filling the air. Finally, David said, we need to talk. Really talk. Everything. I know, but not here. Not now. He touched her face. Gently. I love you. That hasn't changed. But I need time to understand this. To understand you. I know. Can you give me that? He pulled her close. She felt him trembling, adrenaline crash, delayed shock from the combat. She held him steady. Thank you, he whispered. For saving us. You're welcome. The medevac birds arrived 2 hours later. Chinooks dropping through the clearing sky, rotors beating the air into white chaos. They loaded the wounded first, then the dead. Body bags in the snow, tags attached. Someone would notify families. Catherine watched from a distance. She'd given her statement to Williams, walked through the timeline, marked her shooting positions on a map. Professional debrief. She knew the language, the procedures, but she didn't know how to feel. 8 years she'd been out. 8 years living a different life. And in 12 minutes, she'd become what she was again. A sniper. A killer. The muscle memory was still there. The coldness. The ability to put a crosshair on a human being and press a trigger without hesitation. She'd thought she lost that. Hoped she lost it. But you never lose it. You just bury it. And when you need it, it comes back. A soldier approached young Corporal, barely 20. Ma'am, Captain Hayes wants to see you. At the aid station. She followed him across the compound. The aid station was one of the few structures still intact. Inside, it smelled like antiseptic and blood. David was there, sitting on a cot while a medic wrapped a cut on his forearm. He looked up when Catherine entered. You okay? She asked. Few scratches. Nothing serious. He dismissed the medic with a nod. I wanted to. I don't know. Make sure you were okay. I'm fine. Are you? She considered lying, but they'd passed that point. No, not really. Talk to me. Catherine sat on the cot across from him. I told myself I was done, that I'd put it away, but it's still there, all of it, and I'm scared of what that means. What do you think it means? That I can't escape it, that I'll always be this. David was quiet for a moment. Then, you know what I saw today? What? My wife, risking her life to save people, using skills she earned through years of hard work and sacrifice. I saw someone brave. I saw someone who's good at killing. No. You saw someone who's good at protecting. There's a difference. Is there? Yes. He reached across the space between them, took her hand. You could have stayed hidden. Could have let us die. But you didn't. That's who you are. Catherine felt something crack inside. Not breaking. Opening. She squeezed his hand. I should have told you, she said. From the beginning. Yeah, you should have. And we'll work through that. But right now, I'm just grateful you were here. Outside, the medevac birds were lifting off. The sound faded into the distance. The bass grew quiet. What happens now? Catherine asked. Investigation. Debriefs. Lots of paperwork. They'll want to know everything about the attack. And about you. Will I be in trouble? For saving an entire base? No. They'll probably want to give you a medal. I don't want a medal. I know. He stood, pulled her up with him. Come on. Let's get some air. They walked outside. The snow had stopped. The sky was clearing. Deep blue showing through the clouds. The temperature was rising slightly, that brief afternoon warmth before the evening cold set in. Martinez passed by, nodded respectfully. Ma'am. Sir. Other soldiers did the same. Word had fully spread now. Everyone knew what happened on the South Ridge. Catherine felt their eyes. Respect. Gratitude. But also something else. Distance. Fear, maybe. She was different now. Other. The civilian veneer was gone. They saw her as what she was, had been, would always be, in some fundamental way. A warrior. She wasn't sure how to live with that. Night fell cold and clear. The base ran on emergency power, generators chugging in the darkness. Most of the structures were damaged but salvageable. They'd need resupply, reinforcements, engineers to rebuild, but they'd survived. Catherine stood at the south fence line, looking toward the ridge where she'd made her stand. In daylight, it looked smaller than she remembered, less dramatic, but she could still see the lines of fire, the angles, the geometry of death. David found her there. He had 2 cups of coffee, real coffee, not the instant garbage. Someone had brought it on the medevac birds. "Thought you might be cold," he said. She took the cup, grateful for the warmth. "Thanks." They stood in comfortable silence for a while. Around them, the base settled into night watch routines. Soldiers on perimeter, weapons ready. But the tension was different now. Confident. They'd been tested and held. "Williams told me something interesting," David said. "The attackers left equipment behind when they fled. Professional gear, military grade. Someone's going to want to know who they were. Contract soldiers, probably. Or foreign military. You sound sure. Their tactics, their discipline. That wasn't militia. That was trained operators. Which raises questions about why they hit us. What's on this base that someone would want?" David shook his head. "Nothing. We're a monitoring station. Low-value target." Then it was a test. Of what? Response times, defenses, communications. They were gathering intelligence. David considered that. If you're right, they might come back. Eventually. But not soon. We hurt them today. He sipped his coffee, looked at her. "How do you know all this?" "It's what I was trained for. Reading enemy intent, predicting behavior. And you were good at it." "How good?" Catherine was quiet for a long moment. Then, "I was selected for advanced training after my first deployment. Became an instructor, taught other snipers. By the time I left, I was running entire training cycles. So you weren't just a sniper. You were one of the best." "I was effective." "Cat, you can say it. You were one of the best." She met his eyes. "Yes, I was one of the best." Saying it out loud felt strange, like admitting to something shameful, but also true. She had been exceptional at her job. Frighteningly good. "Why did you really leave?" David asked. "The truth this time." Catherine set down her coffee cup. "There was a mission. Fallujah, like I said. High-value target. We'd been tracking him for months. I had the shot. Perfect conditions. Clean line of fire. What happened? He was holding a child. His daughter. We found out later. Using her as a shield. My spotter told me to take the shot anyway. Said the mission was too important. Did you?" "No. I let him go. He killed 17 people the next week. A suicide bombing at a checkpoint. 17 people who might have lived if I'd taken that shot." David's face was grim. "That wasn't your fault, wasn't it?" "I had the shot. I chose not to take it. Because there was a child. That makes you human, not a failure. I couldn't reconcile it. Couldn't figure out the right answer. So I left. Told myself I'd never be in that position again." She looked at the ridge. "But today, I was. Different circumstances, same choice. Pull the trigger or don't. And you did." "I did. Because the math was clear. 7 hostiles versus 23 friendlies. Easy decision." "It's never easy." "No," she agreed. "It's never easy." They stood together as the night deepened. Stars came out, bright and cold. Somewhere in the distance, a wolf howled. The sound carried across the valley, lonely and wild. "What do we do now?" David asked. "After all this? I don't know. That depends on you." "What do you mean? Can you live with who I am? Really am?" David thought about it. Really thought. "I don't know," he said finally. "I need time. Need to process. This is a lot. I understand. But I love you. That's not in question." Even knowing? Even knowing. Catherine felt tears coming and blinked them back. "I love you too." He pulled her close. They held each other in the cold and dark, 2 people trying to figure out how to move forward with truths that changed everything. 3 days later, Catherine was back in her car, driving away from FOB Granite. In the rearview mirror, she watched the base shrink and disappear behind the hills. The official story was already being written. Coordinated defense. Multiple shooters. The investigation would take weeks, maybe months. Her name would be in reports but not headlines. The military preferred it that way. David had asked her to stay longer, but she'd declined. He needed space. So did she. They'd talk soon. Figure things out. Or not. Either way, her secret was out. The life she'd built was cracked. She'd have to decide what to keep and what to let go. The rifle was in her trunk, wrapped in a blanket. David had insisted she take it. For protection, he'd said. But they both knew the truth. Part of her needed it, would always need it. She drove through snow and sun, heading south, heading home, or what passed for home. In her mind, she replayed the shots, calculated the angles, reviewed her performance. 7 confirmed, 1 miss, acceptable ratio. That was the problem. She could still think like that, could still reduce human lives to ratios and probabilities. Maybe she'd never stopped being a sniper. Maybe she'd just been a sniper pretending to be someone else. The road stretched ahead, white and empty. She drove it alone, as she'd always been, as she always would be. Behind her, on a ridge in the middle of nowhere, 7 men had learned what it meant to be in someone's sights. And on a base that survived when it shouldn't have, 23 soldiers carried on, saved by a woman who came only to visit her husband. The snow kept falling, the world kept turning, and Catherine Hayes kept driving.